90 1190. I hope y'all are having a nice morning so far. We want to welcome in our congressman from the 9th Congressional District, Congressman Pittenger. Has always been nice enough to come on and talk with us anytime we ask him to. He's always been nice enough to give his time, and you keep a pretty tight schedule, Congressman. You don't have a whole lot of free time anymore, do you?
No, we're on the run right now.
Well, and there's just so much going on. The news cycle is never ending now. It goes from one thing to the next, and
exactly.
You're just having to play. I say you. I don't mean you particularly. I mean any Republican now. It's like you have to play defense. It's amazing to me because Emory talks about this all the time. They got the Senate, the White House, the Supreme Court, and it still feels like some of them apologize for things. And Emory's like, just do it. You got the power, do it.
No, we're on the offense.
Yeah, of course.
The president's on the offense. I was with him Thursday night. We had some folks over for a picnic. But, we're clearly committed to what we told the American people that we would do. And the president is, and the House Republicans are. We're going to drain the swamp. And that's what this is all about. We're out there. We passed a bill this week to reform the Veterans Administration.
Yeah, that was much needed.
Absolutely.
Much needed.
It's just awful that these great, wonderful people are so valiant and courageous, have committed their lives for our protection and security, and that they wouldn't have the absolute best care. And what we've had is a VA that's been there as a union protecting jobs instead of taking care of our veterans. We're changing that. We're giving the director of the VA the power and the authority to hire people and fire people without going through this undue process of delays and appeals, and all these roadblocks have been put up, frankly, by a union to just protect jobs. There's some good people there. I'm not throwing rocks at everybody that works in the VA hospitals, but there's some folks there who need to be cleaned out, and we need to empower the director and all the hospital directors to be able to remove the people that don't need to be there.
Yeah, I always have my with the VA. I have my story. My wife's grandfather was a Navy veteran. My grandfather was a Navy veteran, and I remember taking my grandfather to the Salisbury VA, and there being times they couldn't even find him in the system. He had his card, it was just, but her grandfather had to have a operation where they had to remove part of his liver, and it couldn't have been more streamlined. It was just and that's like two extremes from the same entity. I've seen both sides of it, but there's no doubt when all those stories started breaking about people waiting for forever to get an appointment and them fudging the wait times, and something had to be done.
Bob Becker, who truly is one of the very best veterans people in the country, he's my district director. He has around 500 cases at any given time that he's working on. And we're sure hoping that bringing greater accountability back into the VA is going to help this process and help these folks get better attention. We've been able to help some people who have been working on issues for some of them decades, but clearly things that have been lingering on for year after year after year. And we're going to be there, and we're going to take care of them.
Let me ask you, just for people's peace of mind, you said you were at a picnic Thursday with the president. Is the constant barrage from the Democrats and the media, is it starting to get to him?
Not one bit.
Wow.
I want people to hear that,
Forget about it. I'm telling you, we don't care what they're thinking, what they're doing, what the left is all about. They're so irrational. They're so irresponsible. I mean, imagine the horrendous things that they've put out there about assassinations and the heads of Trump holding up and blowing up the White House. It's unbelievable.
They've lost their mind.
They really have. We're clearly focused. The House passed our health care reform. We're going to get it passed in the Senate, and we're going to have a health care reform bill. It's going to be great for the American people. We're going to get rid of the federal mandates. We're going to get the government out of the way of directing traffic in health care.
Well, do us a favor, because I know that the average American, all we're getting is television coverage, and you're hearing from, depending on whether or not the person's a Republican or a Democrat. But some people are saying, this is just erasing President Obama's name and putting another. What are the key differences in this health care
It's
reform?
going to give the choices back to the American people. They're going to be able to buy the health care that they want to buy. It's not going to be forced mandates requiring them to buy certain policies, frankly, the things that they don't need or want. If I'm a male and I'm in my 60s, I surely don't need coverage for being pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's just a lot of stupid things inside our health care packages that they prepared. We're going to allow people the right to do that. Also, we're going to make sure that states can allocate funding to the people who really need help in Medicaid. We're a generous country. We're a supportive country, but we don't want people exploiting the system.
Does it address at all I know one of the things President Trump was really keen on, and I thought it was such a smart move. Does this address at all taking away the state line issue for people that want to buy insurance? He's always said, we need to let people shop across state lines.
It will. This particular bill is called reconciliation. It is a certain type of bill that we can pass with the House and the Senate that does not require a 60-vote threshold in the Senate to shut off debate. It only takes 50 votes to secure a positive response.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of bill can only be a fiscal bill, can only be a monetary bill. A policy bill, which would be one crossing state lines, would be additional legislation. We're going to go right into that. So we feel very encouraged. Crossing state lines is really critical to create a competitive market.
Mm-hmm.
When I gave leadership to reforms when I was in the North Carolina Senate, dealing with our medical support, medical liability issues. One of the big concerns that we had was the fact that North Carolina can't buy across state lines. We only have one provider in North Carolina, Blue Cross.
Mm-hmm.
They're in 95 of 100 counties. They threatened to leave. When you look at the absence now in the market of Humana and United and Aetna and now Anthem, these are major carriers who are leaving the national market. We need a competitive cross-border market, just the same way that you buy car insurance. You're going to be able to buy your health care, and it's going to drive prices down for the American people.
One of the things that scares people the most, I think, is with these insurance companies pulling out of certain states, we're going to have to give them a reason to come back and offer these policies. Hopefully that'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
People have because I don't care what the marketplace is, if you don't have but one choice, you don't have a marketplace.
Exactly.
There's no such thing.
Well, exactly, and the reality is the structure that was set up with Obamacare was a failed and faulty structure. They were depending on young people buying in adequate numbers, going through the exchanges that would support older people with greater physical health needs.
Mm-hmm.
CBO even said that they anticipated 18 million people would go through the exchanges. Contrary to that, only 12 million people did. So we can't believe, number one, the CBO scores, but we must recognize that if we change this policy, which we're going to do, it's going to allow people to buy the quality of insurance and the kind of insurance that they want.
Mm-hmm.
So if they may not want an insurance with broad coverage, it'll be more marketable because an insurance company will have various kinds of products to sell, and more people then will want to enter the market knowing that they can buy the product that has the specific things in it that they really want to buy.
I've heard reports and stories of more people. They say, so many million people are going to lose coverage if we pass this, and some of the numbers are higher than the amount of people that are enrolled in it to start with. I don't know where they get these numbers. 18 million people are going to lose insurance if this passes. I didn't know there were that many people on the...
Well, there's 28 million people right now who do not have coverage in Obamacare.
So as of now, there's 28 million people.
Yes, but that... And also, you've got to include people who have coverage, but their deductible is $5,000 to $10,000, and they're paying $1,000 a month or so in insurance. That's not coverage.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Nobody has coverage if that's what you
No.
really have.
No.
So it's a failed structure. It never was designed and set up where it was actuarially sound.
Do you think personally, just your personal opinion, do you think this was put into place to get the single payer ultimately?
Well, I think that was the intent of the progressive left group. They've always pushed for that, and if it failed, then they would say, well, we need the government just to take this over. Well, to the contrary, we're going to let free markets take it over.
That old pesky thing called an election really threw a monkey wrench in their plans, didn't it?
Well, you know, a lot of folks struggle over these. We have to run every 2 years, but frankly, the fact that Obama had to face the voters in 2010 after he passed his Obamacare and also passed the Dodd-Frank bill, which is to take over the financial system, which has killed the financial system in North Carolina. We've lost 50% of our banks in North Carolina because of the Dodd-Frank bill.
Well, you recently were involved in there was some big legislation that was that tackled Wall Street fraud and some things like that too.
Choice Act. We just passed the Choice Act a couple of weeks ago. It's going to create more accountability on Wall Street, more punitive, more fines for them, for bad actors. But at the same time, for your small banks, your community banks, it's going to relieve them of much of the compliance requirements.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a small bank board for 12 years from the time we chartered to the time we sold the bank. It was a great bank.
Mm-hmm.
We had less than 1% losses. But now, because of Dodd-Frank, they're dictated, they're mandated who they can loan money to, who they can't loan money to.
Yeah.
Banks know who's creditworthy. We knew who was creditworthy.
Mm-hmm.
And because of all these compliance costs and obligations, the banks are either, smaller ones are folding or they're having to merge. And that's why we've lost 50% of our banks. Just in the last, I'd say 10 weeks, we've lost 3 more banks in North Carolina that have had to merge because they cannot afford the compliance costs. Well, the bottom line is that's less access to capital and credit for small
Mm-hmm.
business. And small business creates 70% of the new jobs in this country. And if they have a difficult time getting access to capital credit to expand their business, they can't create those jobs. So it has really undermined job growth in this country. That's why we're frankly growing at, 2% economic growth. And we're going to change all that.
I'm going to ask you this. If somebody owned a place, say at Myrtle Beach or at, Garden City or Holden Beach or somewhere like that, since we pulled out of that Paris Climate Accord, is it going to be underwater in the next 10 years? I'm wondering about that. That's something I've been concerned about. No, listen, I know.
Make your reservations down there 10 years from now. You're going to be fine.
Is this, this was made out to be some kind of huge deal that we're not a part of this, but is it, what really happened with this when we said we don't want to be a part of it?
Really, actually, nothing is going to happen.
That's kind of what I thought.
And, if you read Time magazine in 1972, they talked about the coming ice age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's been all kind of speculation out there. I was on the Global Warming Commission for the North Carolina Senate back in the 2005, and we had about 75 speakers that came in, and we had chemists and physicists and geologists, but the only people, the ones that were climatologists who really understood climate weather. All 3 of them said that there were climate changes due to natural causes, and that's the natural process. So these are people from MIT, from Harvard, from Princeton, from major universities that have spoken and said, wait a minute, hold on.
Folks that knew more than Al Gore?
Al Gore. While he gets on his Gulfstream 4 and flies all over the world.
It's amazing.
Burning more fuel than anybody. What a hoax that is.
Climate change to me is a way for big government.
It's a business.
To tell us, Shane, you've got your thermometer set at your house to 71. That's too cold. You're killing polar bears doing this. So you're going to have to raise it up to 75.
And it's also a big transfer of wealth.
It is,
yes.
That's exactly right.
In the Accord, we were having to fund the UN for mitigation efforts around the world, $3 billion. That's with a B, $3 billion. It's basically a transfer of wealth from developing countries to undeveloping countries. While we were binding ourselves in this agreement countries like China and India would go unchecked.
Yeah, exactly.
And they don't have to do a thing.
And they can build all the coal plants they want to build, and we're going to shut ours down.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's why the president said this is a bad deal.
Mm-hmm.
Set aside whether there's climate change or not, this was a bad deal.
Well, we're already leading the way and being, conservative or trying to protect the climate. That's
all
the thing.
All through technology, we have improved our standards and reduced our emissions back to about 1994 levels. So we are much ahead of the rest of the world because of technology.
I was looking here, said, and I didn't know, I'm glad you did though, said you identified over $1.5 billion in spending cuts to help balance our budget. North Carolina ain't wasting $1.5 billion, are they?
Well, that was back in 2005.
Well, that's all right.
When I led the commission there for cost savings in our state government when I was in the state Senate.
Now, President Trump's budget proposal for 2018 is $639 billion to support the military, increased funding for border security, critical focus on law enforcement. Is it a good budget?
It's a good budget. Frankly, our military needs need to be greatly enhanced. They were enormously depleted during the time of Obama's period of just scaling back America and not leading. America, when America's strong, the world is secure. That doesn't mean that we have our footprint everywhere. Well, Ronald Reagan, we were strong then, and he built our military, and the world knew where we stood. And as a result of the strength of our military and putting economic pressure on the Soviet Union, they eventually collapsed without firing a shot. So let's keep in mind that power used in the appropriate way is a good thing. Mr. Obama never knew how to use it.
Will financial restrictions and things of that nature go as far with North Korea? Because I don't mean to be a fearmonger, but this is starting to concern me. North Korea is this guy's. He's nuts. I mean, I don't know a simpler way to put it. He's crazy, and if he gets a chance, he's going to do something crazy. And it seems to me like we have a president who sees that, and people are saying, oh, no, he's no threat. He's not a...
Well, he cares nothing about his own people.
No.
We've seen that. He starves them. I would say to you that our best effort there is relative to defense, having good missile defense systems
I got you.
in place. We do have them. I just got back from China a month or so ago. We have a strong missile defense system there. We have it in South Korea. This new president of South Korea has said he doesn't want to expand it. Don't understand that. But we have it continuing throughout the Pacific on back to this country. We have a good presence. We need to even strengthen that. And we need to let this man know that any move on his part, his country will be devastated.
Yeah. And another thing that's been in the news a whole lot here recently is what's going on with the whole what they call collusion with Russia, and they still haven't found any evidence of any kind of collusion. But is this something people should be concerned about, or is this just fishing?
Absolutely not. There's no obstruction of justice.
We're not going to turn the television on and see, oh, here's a tape.
No, I believe nothing of the sort will happen. This is just part of the left in coming after Trump and looking for anything. There's not been one person from our intelligence community, our Justice Department, or anyone who's come out and said that they see evidence of any type of collusion, much less obstruction of justice.
One of the cool things closer to home, I was just looking, saw that they... And this is a neat story to me because of what they just went through with the flood in that part of North Carolina. But I think it was Antioch Church celebrated 200 years over
yesterday
in Lumberton. That's
I was there yesterday. Had the most wonderful time. What a great
Did
church.
they have a lot of damage from the flood?
They didn't have a tremendous amount of damage.
Good.
A lot of churches did. I've toured that whole county, and a lot of homes were devastated. Housing projects. That people, frankly, have abandoned them, and we don't know if and when they'll come back, but we're working hard to secure funding. We've secured about $1 billion worth of funding last year through our budget and through our grant process We're working on additional funding now. There's just enormous needs in various parts of the eastern part of the state.
Yeah, sure enough. Other things closer to home that you want to mention, because I know you're always doing something, and we talked a lot about what's going on with the president and all these things, but you ultimately, your voters are people in North Carolina ultimately, and what's working in our state? What are you working on here?
Well, two things are important, I believe, for all of us. One is job creation. We've got to expand the job base, and that's why we're going to reduce the tax burden. When we redo the tax burden, and we hope this could even get done by the end of July, but certainly in the fall, we will address this in the fall. That's going to empower and enable small and large business to grow and expand. Reagan did this back in when he became president in 1980, and he lowered the tax base and he lowered the regulatory burden, and the economy took off. After less than 2 years, we were creating 300,000 jobs a month, then 400,000 jobs a month, then 500,000 jobs a month. I mean, the high end of Obama's recovery was $200,000 a month, mm-hmm. and his average was 175,000 jobs a month. Very anemic, because we were so restricted with these high taxes and high regulatory burden on small businesses and on financial institutions. So that's what we're about. Number one is creating jobs that'll expand the job base throughout the country. And the second thing that I spend a lot of my time on is our national security. Mm-hmm. We have to protect and defend ourselves. I chair our Congressional Task Force on Terrorism and Unconventional Warfare. I've just concluded a meeting with 100 or so members of Parliament and other government leaders from 28 countries dealing with counterterrorism finance, cybersecurity, and intelligence sharing, things that we can work and collaborate together on to minimize and, frankly, intercept the efforts of ISIS and other terrorist groups. So this is critical that we protect our homeland. We have people who've come across our border. We're going to secure this border, but we must protect the American people.
To me, that is the most important job
yes, it is.
Of the federal government.
Yeah,
is to protect
and the original job.
That's only defined in the Constitution.
Yes,
for us to do.
Two final things. One in North Carolina and one broader. But I heard this and I kind of laughed. I didn't laugh because I thought it was funny. I laughed because I thought it was sickening. But Governor Cooper actually said that if this health care bill passes, people who are addicted to heroin, it's just going to be worse. We're exacerbating the problem if Republicans are going to make more people addicted to heroin if we pass this.
It's amazing to me when you have 78 people dying of opioids a day that he would make that type of absurd statement. We have allocated over $1 billion in 18 separate legislative bills directed toward opioids to empower the sheriffs to provide more programs out there in our regions, particularly for rural America. This is a crisis in our country, and we are addressing it. I don't know what he's doing about it, but I can tell you what we've done, and it's been very significant.
I can also tell you from personal, I have a really good friend of mine who's a long-time Charlotte-Mecklenburg firefighter, and you would not believe the training and the things that they are going through now to learn how to deal with somebody who has overdosed on this, Narcan, how to administer. I mean, they are working their butts off to figure out better ways of dealing with this and not just treating people once they overdose, but also being able to see if somebody has overdosed, being able to see the signs. They're doing some serious training on this now.
Every sheriff's department is the same way. Mm-hmm. It's enormous resources are being applied from local and state and federally, but we're funding it at a federal level at a very high level.
Yeah, that's good. That's something that we need to do. And finally, just I know this would be more of an opinionated question, but we know, I think it's today officially, the Supreme Court is going to end their session, and we don't know whether or not they're going to take up the travel ban today. In other words, we don't know how they're going to rule. It could be one of three ways. One being that they kick it back down to a lower court, which wouldn't be good. They could table it till their fall session, or they could rule that should this have ever got to this? Is there anything that's more clear than that. I don't understand how this ever got to the Supreme Court, because it's so cut and dry that the president, whoever he is, whether it be Barack Obama or Donald Trump or anybody else, absolutely has the authority to do this.
What's amazing, it was a 90-day review.
Yeah.
Frankly, the 90 days is passed.
Yeah.
But it was a 90-day review, and the president has every right and authority to do this. You have a very left-wing federal court out in San Francisco that ruled against it.
Mm-hmm.
Time and time again, they rule in a very left way. So I believe that they should come back and say, hey, the president is entitled to act as commander-in-chief, protect the American people.
We just don't know. We'll have to wait and see if they do that, or if they. I have a feeling that they're going to take it up in the fall. I don't think they're going to make a determination.
It may be.
Today.
Before we close out,
yes,
I need to say something very
you
important.
Go right ahead, sir.
Big time. Congratulations for being Station of the Year.
Well, thank you.
It's a big deal. What a tribute and honor to you guys. It's just really great. I'm really proud of you.
Well, we just we don't. This radio station doesn't operate like any other that I know of. To be honest,
that's why
with
I
you.
like to come visit you.
It's very, very laid back and very. We try to run our radio station the same way to your congressional office, which is kind of an open door policy. Call us. We're here. That's the reason we do this. That's the reason you do what you do.
Sure.
Is, there are people, and always remember this. If the congressman's office, you're here to serve the people. There are things that people can call your office. I remember one time myself, my wife and I were going on a cruise. At that time, you had to have a birth certificate, not a passport. Mm-hmm. I didn't have my birth certificate, and I applied for a passport, and then it got to about 4 days before the cruise, and I should have had my passport 3 weeks ago. I called Congressman's office, and the next morning it came. So there are things that you help people with.
Well, that's what we love to do. It's our privilege to serve, all my constituents down here in Union County. Mm-hmm. And, we keep an office in Monroe. Mm-hmm. And we've got a team there every single day. And if you need us, contact pittenger.house.gov. Mm-hmm. We want to be there to serve you in every way. You can also dial 704-365-6234.
704-365-6234.
Or here's another phone number that you can dial, and it's 704-917-9573. That's there on Jefferson Street in Monroe. 704-917-9573, right across from the courthouse. You come see us. We're going to help you with veterans needs, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Securities, veterans benefits, everything you can imagine, visas, passports. We're there to serve you. If you got a problem with the federal government or a roadblock, just something you want help with, you call us because we're going to be there for you.
That's Can you awesome. Help my tomatoes grow better?
Well, give me a few that we'll talk about.
Okay, all right, yeah.
You got to test them and see.
Yeah.
Listen, keep up the hard work, and I hope. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you, Congressman?
I'm 68 years old.
I hope that I still have that kind of motor, and that willing to. Jamie said, I hope I have that kind of motor when I'm 68.
Oh, I'm ready to go.
He works circles around all of us.
I get up.
I'm ready for a nap now.
I get up at 5 in the morning in D.C., go to the gym, work all day, get home about 10 o'clock every night.
Wow. You married?
Married, 4 children, and 10 grandchildren.
That's amazing. You're still married if you keep them kind of hours, 5 in the morning to 10 at night.
Been married 38 years.
How many miles do you walk every day?
Well, we walk after the gym. I walk about 5 miles between the office and the Capitol back to committee hearings. We're mostly underground for security reasons, but usually about 15,000 or so steps a day. It's on my iPhone, so I can measure it.
He's got that. There you go. Thank you, Congressman.
You bet.
We appreciate
God bless
it.
you.
We got more coming up after this. Thank you for your time. That is our Congressman, 9th District, Congressman Pittenger. We'll take a break. We'll be back with more of the Breakfast Club. Y'all hang on.